Good afternoon. Campbell McCrary here from Amvest Capital in New York City. Welcome to the Amvest Capital Inc. live webinar with Silver One Resources Inc. Silver One trades on the venture as SVE, Sierra Victor Echo, and on the OTCQX as SLVRF, Sierra Lima Victor Rio Foxtrot. Do hope you'll enjoy today's program. Will also be available in replay mode. Do feel free to chat in your questions in the question pane of GoToWebinar, or simply send them in and we'll ask them in real time. Amvest Capital's New York-based investment management and corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resources sector. And our disclaimer, this call is most definitely for informational purposes only. Pleased to have with us today Greg Crow, who's the president and CEO of Silver One. Greg, I'll give you control of your presentation. More than 30 years of experience in the exploration and mining sector, and was most recently renowned for, from 2002 to 2015, president and CEO of Entree Gold. It was instrumental in transforming Entree from an early stage exploration play to one with an advanced development mining project and a joint venture with Rio Tinto and its partner company Turquoise Hill Resources in Mongolia. So, Ivanhoe. Following the formal presentations, members of Amvest Capital will ask questions of management. And of course, again, please send in your questions. And a copy of this presentation will be available at amvestcapital.com/webinars. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Campbell, how are you doing?
Okay.
Good. Can you see my screen fine?
And your laser. Yep. All good.
Okay. And my laser, that's perfect. Okay, well, pleasure to be here again. And I'll start the presentation, probably 20 plus minutes. Might be a little repetitive for those of you who know the story, but in case there's some new people there, I'll start right at the beginning. I'll give you about a 1-minute overview of the company. We'll get in a little bit about why silver, and then I will start talking about the 3 major assets that we are working on in the Southwest US, and then we will wrap it up and entertain questions after that. So let's get started. The company started in mid-2016 by acquiring 3 Mexican exploration assets from a company called First Mining Finance. Those of you who aren't aware, First Mining Finance is one of the companies in the stable of companies run by a fellow by the name of Keith Neumeyer. He also has a company called First Majestic with 3 operating mines in Mexico, $2+ billion market cap company. But as time went on, past 2016, silver prices softened, and we went looking for something a little more advanced. And we ended up targeting what's referred to as the past producing Candelaria silver mine in the state of Nevada. That was a photograph of that operation that just came up on the screen there. We entered into an agreement with then Silver Standard, now SSR Mining, and with the ability to acquire a 100% interest in the past producing Candelaria silver mine with no royalties back to Silver Standard or SSR. There's forward-looking information in this presentation, so pay heed to that. So not only am I going to be speaking about our flagship project, the Candelaria Mine project, I'm also going to be talking about an earlier stage high-grade epithermal silver gold copper vein system that we staked in eastern Nevada. We have a 100% interest in that project. And then I'm going to wrap up by talking about a new project that we brought in just last year, and we have the ability to acquire a 100% interest. It's an extremely high-grade silver opportunity in the state of Arizona. Last year, in July, we did a 9.5 million, these are Canadian dollars, financing. Eric Sprott came in for 5 of the 9.5 million, and that was the 3rd time that he had invested in our company. So let's move on and talk a little bit about why silver. Well, first of all, let's talk about its growing uses and the fact that supplies are diminishing. There are very few, if any, pure silver mines in the world. And plus, we have the looming inflation coming with the amount of trillions of dollars that have been injected into the world currencies worldwide. Silver is both industrial and precious metal, and the industrial uses are definitely increasing, particularly in the electronics sector. Matter of fact, in the automobile sector, they are projecting increased usages that can go from about currently 55 million ounces to, in the next 20 years, over 600 million ounces just in the automotive industry itself. But also important are solar panels and all the other electronic components that you have, your computers, your cell phones, etc. Now, what's important as well about silver is that in a bull market, a precious metals bull market, essentially silver tends to outperform gold on a percentage basis. You'll see that in the various bull markets that I've represented here. And we've seen that recently in the run up where the gold silver ratio has gone from a high of 126 last March down to just under 70 today. And Goldman is calling for a 10-year commodity super cycle. So I think we're poised well for silver. And a lot of people are calling for gold to rally, particularly once it's apparent that that inflation is about to set in. Now, let's talk about the projects themselves. First of all, Candelaria, which is the flagship project. It is located in the western part of Nevada, just off the main highway that joins Reno to Las Vegas. It was a very high-grade producer, discovered in 1864. Up until 1959, it produced from near surface high-grade silver oxide veins, underground mining at an average rate of 1,250 grams per ton silver. One of the highest grade producers in the state of Nevada. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it was converted into open pit mining. Kinross was the last group to operate it. They shut down in 97 with the collapse in silver prices to under $5 per ounce silver. I think they touched down at $2.50 per ounce silver. Closed the mine, sold it off to Silver Standard 2001, 2002. Silver Standard did a drill program, outlined new resources. They did some network scoping studies. And then they determined that with silver prices still languishing well under $5 per ounce, that they would move on to some other projects. They took the company in a different direction. In late 2016, early 2017, we approached them just as they were rebranding their company. They were essentially becoming a gold mining focused company, and they even changed their name to SSR Mining, and they sold off a lot of their silver assets, so we got a pretty good deal on that project. So what is this historic resource? Now, we deem it to be historic. It was 43101 compliant, but as it was done in 2002, we must deem it historic today. But measured and indicated resources were deemed to be about 44 million ounces of silver, with an additional 34.5 million ounces of silver at the inferred level. Now, Kinross also left a lot of silver behind in the two big heap leach pads. They just turned off the taps in 1999. We ended up drilling those, doing some metallurgical studies, and we put out an updated 43101 compliant resource on the heap leach pads just last year. So that would be in addition to this in-ground or in situ mineralization, and it essentially hosts on the big leach pad, which you'll see in the photograph here, approximately 30 million ounces of silver, and in behind the hill here, another smaller leach pad with about half that amount of silver. Both of them are averaging about 42 grams per ton silver. Now, why is that important? Well, first of all, if we look at a comparable operation in Nevada today, a company called Coeur, which is a big mining company, silver focused, they are actually mining and producing by heap leach pads silver oxide ore, which averages head grade of only 15 grams per ton silver. They're only getting between 50 and 55% recovery. Can we make a go of this? That's what we are trying to achieve. We're currently doing metallurgical testing on the heaps and perhaps combining the heaps with extensions to the old open pit mineralization as well. I'll talk about that momentarily. First, let's look at the project. Let's look at the infrastructure. Located just off the main highway that joins Reno to Las Vegas, 2 miles of paved road coming back past that hidden leach pad number 2 in that photograph to leach pad number 1 to what's left of the old processing site. The 2 big open pits with down dip silver standard derived resources just on the northeast side. We have a power line. It comes in and it is active. We pay our monthly power bills. We've got 2 water wells, each capable of 500 to 700 gallons per minute. If you do not have water in Nevada, you're not going to be able to operate. So we have all of the key ingredients necessary for the rehabilitation of this past producing mine. On top of that, we've got considerable strike extent outwards from the 2 big open pits with abundant historic workings that suggest there could be room for the discovery of additional mineralization. So let's talk about some of the things that we've done. We did a diamond drilling program in 2020. Early 2020, put out some news, I think it was March or April of last year, and we had discovered that down dip, there were some pretty high grade intercepts. Some of them we were getting up to 1,000 grams per ton silver with about 1.5 grams gold. Now, this is a little different than the open pit mineralization that is averaging somewhere around 100 to 110 grams per ton silver. So we believe there is a high grade zone in through here. We went back late last year and we are still continuing and just wrapping up a 15,000 meter reverse circulation and diamond drilling program. We did some more holes in here. We had some additional high grade hits. This one here was 1,100 grams per ton silver. And again, 1.5 grams gold over 8 meters within a 30-meter wide interval. We're getting some spot ones here north of the Northern Bell Pit that need further drilling to be done on it. So the objective was, can we find a zone that could be high grade and important for down the road production through an underground mining situation? That was goal number 1. Goal number 2 on the drilling that we're doing is we're drilling a long strike, particularly from the Mount Diablo pit. We're looking to expand those resources, which Silver Standard had, but also we are doing some metallurgical testing with the aim of potentially combining easily accessible open pit material with the heap leach material in order to increase grade and potential recoveries. We'll be doing metallurgical testing on both in the next few months with the aim of putting out an economic report, hopefully by the end of 2021. So what else is there at Candelaria? Well, there's lots of upside potential. Remember, I talked about the distribution of all of those historic workings as well. We flew the property about just over a year ago, and we did an airborne helicopter-mounted magnetometer survey. Huge magnetic high to the north in red and purple, against this strong magnetic low in blue, green, and yellow. Here are the 2 big open pits. Historic workings essentially extend to the east from Mount Diablo and to the west right along that well-defined zone, which is the regional structure hosting mineralization. So we're looking for easy extensions to the open pit mineralization near surface, lower grade, higher grade mineralization down dip, but also at the Georgine pit. Kinross started it, but they shut it down in '97. So there's some more room to play in there. But what's really quite intriguing is there's another style of mineralization that we're finding in the old dumps outside the historic adits. And that mineralization looks like this. It's an extremely altered, intrusive looking material with abundant chalcopyrite, which is a copper bearing mineral. Now, with that, what we're trying to do is determine, is this reflective of an underlying porphyry-related system that could be either IOCG or skarn type mineralization? IOCG is iron oxide, copper, gold, and a similar situation is actually being mined just to the north of us by a group called Nevada Copper at their Pumpkin Hollow deposit just outside the town of Yerington. We analyzed these rocks off the old dumps, and we're getting values up to over 2.5% copper with good silver and gold credits. So associated with that big magnetic high is there a porphyry-related system at depth, which would completely, shall we say, enhance what we already have in terms of silver oxide mineralization here at Candelaria. So we're doing three things with our program. Just completing our 15,000 meter reverse circulation program. We'll be putting out those results when we get the assays in the next few weeks. We're going to be doing metallurgical testing on the reverse circulation material, on material marginal to the big open pits, and we'll combine that with metallurgical testing on the heaps and see whether we can get an economic report out towards the end of the year. We're looking at for a potential high grade underground resource, and we also want to test for, do we have a porphyry related IOCG or skarn deposit associated with that big magnetic signature at Candelaria. So that's what we're doing at Candelaria. News coming out in the not too distant future, particularly with respect to wrapping up that drill program and where we want to go next. Cherokee, let's talk about that. This was a concept. We had seen a reference in a mining journal to essentially Cherokee, which talked about mining in the thousands of grams per ton silver in the 1800s. Just south of a town called Pioche, which is a big old mining camp. When they started mining there in the late 1800s, they started in near surface high grade silver gold veins. When they got down deeper into the host rock, which is mainly limestones, they found carbonate replacement deposits with copper, lead, zinc, silver, and gold. So we went and we looked at Cherokee, and we found, here's the old Cherokee mine. We walked the veins, and the vein systems that are very strong and persistent. We traced them for over 12 kilometers or 9 miles along strike. We checked the legal title. The ground was open, so we staked all of the surrounding ground. Then we bought the patented claims and an artesian water well up just off the claim, so we actually have 100% of this project for essentially staking costs. We then went down into this area here, and the old historic reports talk about drilling down in this area in the 1970s and 1980s, and they were drilling for a deep buried porphyry molybdenum deposit. But none of these vein systems have ever been drilled. We did a lot of detailed surface sampling. I'll show you some of the Cherokee area sample results, and I'll show you some of the hidden treasure sample results. If we look at it, here is Cherokee Mine itself. We're getting some nice surface values there, values up to 950 grams per ton silver, 4.8% copper. These persist to the south. We're getting some up to 1,100 grams per ton silver, 2.3% copper. These have never been drilled. These are all covered by patented claims, so we could get in there later this year and drill on the patented claims with minimal effort with respect to permitting. Now, the other situation is hidden treasure area. It is a wide system of multiple veins. We haven't fully mapped it yet. We're losing the copper, but we're seeing gold coming into the system. We are getting some interesting values up to 1,900 grams per ton silver and 2 grams per ton gold. Now, we flew the property. We did another airborne helicopter mounted magnetometer survey. And what we found was down in the south, where they were drilling for a buried porphyry moly deposit in the 1970s, 1980s. We find a very pronounced mag high. They didn't get down to essentially what is defining this mag high. They never got through the overlying limestones, the same limestones that underlie the Pioche area to the north of us. But on the surface, we're seeing all sorts of zones of alteration and veining. We think this area is very important, and we want to do some more work there later in the year, particularly Johnny Hidden Treasure, see if we can upgrade that to drill targets. Majoto is getting more and more interesting. And then Cherokee itself, we might try and get in there and drill that later this year, but that depends on what we find at our next project, which might take priority. So let's talk about our third project, Phoenix Silver, which we acquired the right to earn 100% last year. Essentially, just outside the town of Globe, Arizona, big porphyry copper producing area, BHP, Freeport-McMoran, Rio Tinto, all in this area here. We've got an old silver camp to the northeast. Essentially, some prospectors came to us and said, we have this property, it's completely covered by overburden, we're finding little fragments of silver, and we went back up an old dry creek bed with our metal detectors, and we uncovered very large fragments of silver. This one fragment weighed in at 417 pounds. We didn't sample it because it is a collector's specimen, but we did specific gravity measurements, and that's estimated to contain over 70% silver. So we went and looked. Here's the town of Globe, 20-minute drive up to our project sitting right here. Old historic mines to the northeast that talk about native silver, big porphyry copper camp just on the western margin of our property, quite an active mining area. So we actually analyzed some of the smaller samples that the prospectors had given us. And this sample, that's all native silver, all that shiny material in through there. And essentially it returned 459,000 grams per ton silver, or over 14,500 ounces per ton. You don't see values like this very much or very often in the world today. And if you look at the style of these fragments, very angular, very unabraded. We don't believe they've traveled very far. So our job is to try and find the source of these rich, super rich vein fragments. Now, we did fly the property, again, airborne magnetometer. This was depicted a little differently. We combined it with surface geophysics, surface soil geochemistry, a little bit of rock sampling where we find some rocks like up at the Mexico mine. This is where those big silver fragments were found. Taking and walking up the creek upstream, we come to an intersection of lineaments defined by geophysics and geochemistry. We think this is very important with respect to potentially hosting those big silver vein fragments. We have applied for a drill permit for this area in through here. And when we get that drill permit, which might take another couple of months, we want to get in there with the drill and drill test to see, can we find the source of these very rich vein fragments? The other interesting aspect of the property is we have some other targets to look at. We're developing some new ones up in through here. What's also interesting and augments the value of this project is down here. These veins have an overprint from the much younger mineralizing event that deposited all the porphyry copper deposits immediately to the west and southwest of us. And we're seeing these veins have not only silver and gold, but they have copper, lead, zinc, and molybdenum. And our neighbors immediately to the west have a joint venture with a group called South 32 out of Australia. For those of you who remember, South 32 bought out Arizona Mining for 1.7 billion, I think it was, not too long ago, about a year ago, and that was on their Arizona projects. They're drilling right now for porphyry-related base and precious metal mineralization. So stay tuned. We'll get a drill in there as quickly as we can, and we'll be talking about other work that we're currently doing as well. So just to refresh and recap, Candelaria, we're just finishing up a drill program. We'll be getting news out soon. We're continuing our met testing on the long strike mineralization and the heaps with the aim of getting an economic study out in later 2021. And we're looking for, is there evidence of a deeper porphyry-related system that would host copper, gold, and silver. Stay tuned for that. Cherokee, Nevada, we are looking at getting in there, doing some more sampling and mapping, and we might drill the old Cherokee Mine area under the patents itself. And then Phoenix Silver, we have a drill permit in progress. Once we get that, which could be a couple of months, we want to get in there and drill and advance that project as well. So this is our performance since the inception of the company back in 2016. We've got about 12 million, these are Canadian dollars, left in our treasury, more than ample funds to carry out the programs that we want to carry out. Could last us 2 years if we need to hunker down. Eric Sprott, essentially our largest shareholder, he came in on the last 3 financings of the company. He's been a very faithful shareholder, and we do trade good volumes on both the US and the Canadian exchanges. So that essentially is the presentation. It's a quick summary, but if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Okay, just coming on. Thank you all for great questions you sent in, but everyone else, please send them in. You can find the word chat there and scribble something down, or have my email, of course. And this is my colleague Artie. When do you expect to commence regarding processing the silver from the 2 leach pads at the Candelaria project?
Yep, well, as I mentioned a couple of times, we are aiming to get an economic study out towards the end of this year. We're currently doing the metallurgical testing. With that, we'll make a decision and we'll move as quickly as possible. We have had preliminary discussions with both the BLM and the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection. They've essentially said, look, you know, you guys have a disturbed site that was never fully reclaimed. Permits are still in place from Kinross, but they need to be updated, which we anticipate would be a matter of months, not years, like some other projects around Nevada. So we're very hopeful for that. So stay tuned. Later this year, we hope to give you more information regarding a more definitive timeline.
Do you foresee looking for a buyer or a partner, or you keep doing things yourself, or you keep your options open?
We keep our options open.
Then my question would be, what is the kind of the market doing right now? What's the trend in the industry?
Oh, wait a minute. What are you, the trend in the industry with respect to M&A or development, or what?
Someone of your size in development.
Oh, okay. Well, put it this way. We're fortunate that we can afford to wait and keep our options open. We have a treasury that is, we're able to carry out the programs that we want to carry out for the next year or even 2 years. If somebody wants to come along and make an offer to assist us or otherwise, it would be the management and board's fiduciary duty to consider such a situation. But right now, we're planning on just advancing our projects as far as we can.
All right. You described Phoenix as being pretty high grade. Why not push that project?
Well, we are pushing the project. We have applied
ahead of the others.
Well, only because we're just finishing up a 15,000 meter drill program at Candelaria, and we're doing the met testing. But we've put in for a drill permit. Now, until we get that drill permit, we can't really push ahead on the Phoenix Silver project. I think what people have to understand is in order to move a drill onto a property, you need permitting, and permitting takes time, and you have to go through not necessarily only the state government, but you also have to go through the federal government if it's on BLM land, and that's what we're doing right now.
Right on. What are the cutoff grade and recoveries of the mineral resource?
Are we talking about Candelaria? I assume. Candelaria. Okay, well, let's, can you still see the screen? Okay, just going up here. Okay, on the in situ mineralization, which is historic, you're looking at cutoff grades, well, you're looking at the average grades there of approximately 3.5 to 4.5 ounces per ton. So you're looking at about 100 to 110 grams per ton there. On the resource at the heap leach pads, you're looking at about 42 grams per ton on those resources. So that's where we are right now.
All right. What are the current indications on hand about processing the old pads? That they would be profitable? What kind of cutoff grade and recovery numbers would be workable for you at the old pads?
Well, all I can say is we haven't done a formal study. That formal study, we are doing the met testing, and we hope to have a formal study out towards the end of the year. Crudely, if we look at not grades, but we look at silver values right now, if we look at $25 silver, which we're kind of hanging in at, then they're looking interesting. $30 silver, they look great. $20 silver, probably marginal. The actual grade is not as important as what sort of recoveries can we get, and those recoveries vary depending upon the type of processing we'll want to do, and that's what we're doing our metallurgical testing on right now. So have patience and stay tuned. We'll get that information to you as quickly as we can.
Where would you say the biggest portion of the past $9.5 million financing went to?
Well, as we have $12 million in our treasury right now, I would say the bulk of the funds, we probably have spent approximately just over 4 million in Candelaria itself, 4.5 million, and I'm talking Canadian dollars right now, okay? So about 4.5 million at Candelaria. We probably spent just over $1 million between the other two projects themselves.
What kind of different silver mineralizations do you have on the property? Which ones we could call high grade ores, and the high grade ores, at what depth do they start?
Okay, essentially what you're looking at, as I said, silver oxide mineralization, marginal to the heap leach, marginal to the two open pits. You're looking at near surface oxide mineralization that's averaging somewhere between, say, 100 and 110 grams per ton silver, which is ample for open pit mining. Down dip, we're seeing much higher grades of mineralization that go from anywhere between, say, 150 meters to 250 meters deep, and we're getting multiple grades in the hundreds of grams per ton silver. This zone here, if we can say that average is greater than 250 to 350 grams per ton silver, that could be amenable by ramping down to an underground bulk mining situation. But time will tell. We'd have to do our studies.
All right, thank you. Artie?
Thank you. I'm wondering about the age of the pads and the type of extraction process originally used there, and do you know their efficiency at that time?
Yep, to a degree. We've got the historic record. So essentially, we're looking at two pads. Essentially, we were looking at this big pad, leach pad number 1, another one in behind the hill, which is leach pad number 2. Those pads were started in the 1970s by a group called NERCO Occidental. And then they were taken over by Kinross in the 1990s and expanded. And so they were shut down in 97. So no work has really been done, or sorry, 99 is when they were shut down. So no work has been done, for quite a number of years, and they've been sitting there. So the efficiency was, in essence, I guess a good comparable would be what's happening up at Coeur's Rochester mine to the north, where they are actually mining oxide silver, similar to what they did out of the open pits here, and they're processing it on heaps, similar to what they did in the old days. The difference is the fresh material coming out of the pits was averaging around 100 to 110 grams per ton silver. Coeur is mining head grades of 15, 1/10 of that right now. Can we make a go of it? These are our economic studies. And do we have a higher grade mineralization? Kinross was getting approximately 55% recovery from the fresh mineralization, which is not unusual for silver, pure silver oxide in these situations. Coeur currently is only getting about 55% recoveries. So can we make it go? Stay tuned.
Thanks for that. And when we look at your down dip drilling, do you think this potentially new mineralized areas can be accessible via old open pits?
No, I think
underground?
I think it's a little too deep. I think some of this mineralization, as you get, essentially the mineralization kind of strikes like this and it dips that way. So it gets deeper as you go to the northeast. So some of this mineralization is getting down around 200 meters. That might not be economic to access via open pit, unless we found an awful lot of it. But we found enough right now that we could consider bringing in a ramp from the base of the pit, which is currently about 150 meters deep, and getting down to the 250 meter level, and then mining some of this material out here. And we've got more drilling and more testing to do here as well.
And other than those deep targets, as I know, you are going to drill some on the strike length, and do you think those are close to the old pits?
Well, where we're looking at drilling right now to test for this underground potential copper, silver, gold type mineralization is located approximately in this area in through here. That's where we're finding the material on the old adit dumps that it returned very significant values in silver, gold, and copper. So that's why we're looking there. But we're also drilling just immediately along strike from the open pits themselves to look for extensions of that lower grade silver oxide ore that could be added to the heaps to augment grades and recoveries for an earlier processing.
Thank you. Campbell?
Okay.
Where would you ideally see yourself as an exploration company in 12 months? And what kind of evaluation would you give to your non-silver assets? And then, anyway, you could, as an aside, can you talk a bit more about your Mexican properties?
Oh yeah, okay. Well, first of all, you know, where we are in the next 12 months, what our silver price is going to be in the next 12 months, because that's going to be very important with respect to economic viability of reprocessing the silver from these heaps. Most people are calling for an increase in silver prices, particularly as inflationary pressures come in and fiat currencies falter a little bit. But if the silver prices do stay the same or head up, then we will have made substantial progress and hopefully our valuation will be greater. With respect to the Mexican assets, we put out a news release just a few weeks ago that we actually sold those 3 Mexican assets. We sold them to a newly listed company that started trading a few weeks ago on the Toronto Venture Exchange. It's called Silverton, SILVERTON. And essentially they gave us 1.25 million Canadian dollars. They are going to pay us an additional 1.25 million Canadian dollars over the next 24 months. And we acquired about 4.3 million shares of their company, which gives us about a 15% interest in the new company. So we'll maintain, shall we say, a position in the Mexican silver projects for the near future, and then we'll just see how things move along with their development.
Once operation starts, will public tours be held? And will public access to the Candelaria Cemetery and town site be allowed?
Well, there's access right now. You can drive up there. I'm not sure whether you get into the cemetery. It's within our gates, but by making arrangements, that could be available. But people do drive by the old town, which is probably located down in here somewhere. Okay, and not much left there. Just a couple of small, shall we say, partial buildings that are almost totally collapsed. So there's not really a town there anymore. When NERCO was doing their operations here, most of the materials from the town were exported to a museum, and I'm not sure where that museum is. So I should do a little research and find out where that material was sent to. But it's no longer available to view on site. But there is a public road that comes in like that and then heads back out to the highway, which you can access. Now, would we do public tours? We have done a couple of tours, and I'm not adverse to doing tours as long as they're well organized and enough advance notice is given. We're not here on a full-time basis right now. Well, we are right now because we're drilling, but when we're not drilling, we're not there on a full-time basis, so we have to make special arrangements.
How much stock does management own?
If we go back to the, okay, let's go here. There you go. Just gonna get there. Oh, I just got rid of my thing there. I didn't want to do that. There we go. Management and directors, just over 5%. A lot of close associates with the company. To the company, probably have about another 15 to 20% as well.
All right. At what extent do you understand the down dip high grade mineralization is?
Well, I said we're drilling it. It's starting to define, coalesce into a body. We need to do a bit more drilling to say this is a potentially mineable resource. So that's something for the future, but it's certainly looking encouraging. And if you can find bodies that you know, have values, a lot of mines in Mexico, underground mines that are narrower than what we're finding down dip from our mineralization, are being mined at 200 to 300 grams per ton silver. So if we can find mineralization that averages that with some high grade hits in the thousands of grams per ton silver, I think we've got a good opportunity, particularly when we're already 150 meters down in the open pit. So that would minimize the amount of drifting down to, say, 250 meters that we would have to do.
Okay, a few more questions, winding down. What are the signs of potential for IOCG skarn targets at Candelaria?
Well, essentially, we're finding mineralization. Sorry, have to go up. Okay, we're finding mineralization that looks like this. This is essentially an extremely altered, intrusive looking material. It's cut through with quartz veining. It's cut through with chalcopyrite. We're finding material also on the dumps that has garnets in it, which is indicative of potential skarn. We're finding mineralization that has little amphibole minerals that are called actinolite, which is indicative of a skarn. So do we have a skarn? Do we have an IOCG? Do we have a porphyry system at depth? We're drilling to try and find out, do we have indications? Because if there is indications of that, and you know, if it isn't down there, where did this mineralization come from? Then if there are indications of a porphyry, much larger porphyry, that'll change Candelaria itself, because Candelaria historically has been known simply as a silver oxide mine. Suddenly, if there's a bigger porphyry, a lot of big companies right now like big, deep buried porphyries that are rich in copper.
What are your initial drill targets at the Cherokee project? What are you aiming to demonstrate next? Well,
if I said, you know, you can only do so much in terms of, so we're winding up the project to Candelaria. We're going to be starting a project at Phoenix Silver when we get the drill permit, but later on, time permitting, we'll get in on the patented claims, and you can see the outline of the patents in blue right there, and there. and we'll try and get a drill in there and drill some of those high grade veins to see, do we get those values persisting to depth? If so, that shows a very strong system. I mean, this little vein system itself goes from up here right down to here, and that's over 2 kilometers in length, not to mention the entire project, which is over 12 kilometers in length. So we've got a good strong vein system in through here. We've got another one developing down here. We've got a whole zone down here that's extremely interesting. These ones are too early to tell, but we're getting lots of surface value. So it's a big project, but we want to get in, and time permitting, we'll may try and get a drill into here and drill some of those showings later this year.
All right, and Greg, if you can flip to a sort of highlights, upcoming catalyst page. I'll just want to thank everyone for tuning in. We'll be asking you for feedback, and it'll get its way to Greg in due course. And you can get a copy of this event at amvestcapital.com/webinars. And with that, Greg, I'll give it back to you to close, and maybe it's all about why buy the stock now and what's upcoming. So I'll leave you to kind of close on that high note.
Sure, and let's think about it. What's driving silver prices? They've come off a little bit in the last couple of months, as has gold prices. Essentially, markets are going up and down, Bitcoin's going up, and Biden administration coming in, Fed saying, don't worry, there's not going to be any inflation, but I think everybody says inflation has already started and it's only going to get worse. And I think there's lots of room. A lot of people are very bullish, essentially, with respect to a bull market in precious metals. Goldman's predicting a 10-year precious metal run, and silver always outperforms gold in these big bull markets. Look at our share price. We were essentially a year ago languishing in the 20-cent range, 15-20 cent range. We went to a high of 90. We've come off, I'm talking Canadian dollars here, went to a high of 90. We're sitting down now around 68, 69. We're one of the few silver companies that was actually up today. And essentially, I think there's a lot of room to grow, particularly as we've got news coming out. Going to be putting out the drill results on that 15,000 meter drill probe Candelaria in the next few weeks. We get our drill permit at Silver Phoenix. That'll be propelling hopefully us forward, and then we may get in and actually drill Cherokee. So stay tuned, upcoming news, and I think there's lots of room left in the precious metals markets.
You've got a bull by the tail and a bull market.
There we are.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Campbell.
Thank you.